One of the biggest stories here at Big Ten Media Days, the addition of 4 new schools to the Big Ten, including USC. Lincoln Riley entering his 3rd year at the helm of the Trojans, came from Oklahoma, where he won 55 of his 65 games. To say he's known for developing quarterbacks would be an understatement. Has coached 3 of the last 8 Heisman winners, the only coach ever to have 3 Heisman-winning quarterbacks. And Lincoln Riley joining us now as we continue our coverage here from Indianapolis. And Coach, obviously geography's different, opponents are different. Aside from kind of those obvious things, what do you see as the biggest difference for your team and your school as you enter the Big Ten?
Yeah, I think you said it. I mean, to me, it's the opponents. It's the new matchups, the new rivalries that this is going to create. And I think anytime you go into a different conference, there's a little bit of an adjustment period, right? You're getting to know the new opponents. They're getting to know you. You're starting to evolve your strategies on, how you're going to try and be competitive, how you're going to try and beat these different opponents week in and week out. And to me, that's the fun part of it. That's the chess match right behind the scenes, whether it's strategy, whether it's who you're recruiting, how you construct the rosters, development. We're getting ready to get into revenue share, where you allocate your salary cap, right? All of that's coming here, and that's good to me with the collection of teams and programs that we have now here in the Big Ten. What an incredible storyline and opportunity that it makes.
We were joking a little bit with Kirk Ferentz and saying we want to be the first people to ask you about your offense. So in the same vein, I'd like to be the first person to ask you about your defense. I'm sure no one has asked you about it all here today.
Yeah, this will be the first one.
Well, we're groundbreaking here. We really are. Dan Lynn's a great hire, and we saw what an amazing job he did at UCLA. We remember him as a student athlete when he was at Penn State up on the desk with us, which tells you how long the 3 of us have been doing this.
Remember, what's even scarier is I remember him running 110s with his dad at practice. So we go way back.
With Dan. He's clearly a fabulous hire. What has he brought that you think will help you guys defensively?
Yeah, well, I think the experience of not only the job he did at UCLA last year, as you mentioned, the biggest turnaround defensively in college football, but also just his NFL experience. He's worked for some great head coaches, some great defensive coordinators, and he's really has a tremendous mind, I think, not just for the game defensively, but just as a teacher. And I think that's, sometimes gets lost is there's still, for these guys, even the guy that's a big recruit or a player that comes out of the portal, there's still a lot of development that has to be done. And I still think it comes down to, can you reach and develop and really teach people? And Danton's got a unique ability to do it. He just does. It's within the first 30, 45 minutes that we talked, I could tell that this guy was a little bit different, and I knew pretty quickly that I wanted him to be the next defensive coordinator at USC. And I'm excited because we've been able to surround him with a tremendous defensive staff. Matt Itz from North Dakota State, who was the head coach there, won multiple national championships. We brought over Eric Henderson from the Los Angeles Rams, who left coaching a guy named Aaron Donald to come coach our D-line at USC. Doug Belk, who was the defensive coordinator at Houston, is now our secondary coach. So excited about Danton, but equally excited about the guys around him that we were able to build.
Coach, there's a narrative about the Pac-12 biggest adjustment to the Big Ten is the line of scrimmage. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure that's true, but as you've studied the Big Ten schools, is there any truth to that?
I think there's some really good line of scrimmage play in the Big Ten, and I think we'll have some real challenges there. But I think we're coming in with some schools that have, the ability to do that as well. And so it'll be a challenge, it'll be a key, but we're not coming in with a gun that's not loaded, right? Yeah, I certainly don't feel that way at all. But that's always been a big part of this conference. It's a big part of winning games, especially later in the season. We know that, we've seen that. And so, yeah, and certainly when you put all these teams together, now all of a sudden you've got a lot of great programs. You've got multiple blue bloods in this conference. It's going to take a lot to win it, and that's certainly going to be a big factor.
Coach, you've coached multiple Heisman Trophy winners. What's the difference between coaching those guys and coaching someone who is trying to get to that level? How does that help you as a play caller and also as a team as they develop?
Yeah, I think even with the guys that have, won those awards or won other awards, you still just remember the journey, like even what it was like with those guys before, they did those things. And I think you I think you appreciate the personal relationships and the time that you have with these people, the time, spent to get to that level. I think, one thing that I've tried to pride myself on and always worked hard to do is the trust of the players, that they really trust you as a coach, because no matter how good they are, no matter how good your coaching points are, how good your X's and O's or anything like that, if they don't fully believe in every single syllable that comes out of your mouth, you got no chance. And so I think establishing that trust has been a big part of it, and maybe one of the things that, if I were to say, has been one of the keys, I would point to that first.
Yeah.
How has the change in conference impacted recruiting?
I think two ways. I think one, it's opening us up even more to a different area of the country. Now, we are a program, and we're fortunate that we do have a national following and are a national brand. So I don't know that any place has been like off limits, but at the same time, I do see the interest, more from, the Midwest and more from the Northeast, maybe even more than it was before, because we're going to be playing some games in this part of the country, and those teams are going to be coming out to play us, and we're going to be, on TV in a lot of these areas, and you feel that a little bit more. So I felt like that's accelerated, and the openness in those areas has certainly improved. And even before we've played a Big Ten game, you look at kind of what we signed last year. I mean, we signed guys from Minnesota. We signed guys from Michigan. Right. I mean, we got out and did some work in some of those areas before a snap was even taken.
What are some of the keys that you want to get done as you get ready to go into training camp and prepare this team for the next phase, for this upcoming season? What are some of the things that are at the top of your mind?
Yeah, I think continuing the defensive implementation of the schemes, the mentality. That's we feel like we made up some great ground this spring, but that certainly will be a big part of training camp. We've still got several new players that came in, a few guys from the portal, some of our high school guys that did not graduate early, so getting those guys integrated within the team. And then I think, you're starting to figure out here, now that you've got the whole team, who you're going to play with, what kind of personnel groupings you're going to use, starting to look ahead at the matchups that you've got come up and start to prepare yourself for it. So it's the best time of the year.
Coach, it's interesting. Gerry was talking about the line of scrimmage, and again, we're talking in generalities, and you've got 18 programs, and each one of them is a little bit different. But I do think we can certainly vouch for there have been some elite defenses in this league in recent years, and I think last year was really one of the best defensive years we've seen in this league in quite some time. The programs that are coming in, a lot of them, yours included, are known for really good offenses. So tell me about the adjustment period. Like, how much do you think that schools will have to adjust to you? How much do you think they'll have to adjust to them? What's the push and pull there?
Yeah, well, hopefully we make them adjust a lot, right? That's the plan.
Right.
Yeah, it's going to happen on both sides, right? Like, I do think there has been a little bit of a notion of all the schools coming in of how, we all have to adjust to this league, and we certainly do. But this league to me now is a combination of all of us, and we're all going to have to adjust to each other. And that's going to be – there will be an evolution to that, right? That'll start this year, and it's just going to grow more and more each year as you learn each other, you learn people's personalities, you learn their roster, you start to devise, all right, how are we going to beat these people? How are we going to find our competitive advantages? So, certainly we hope we do enough good things for people to have to adjust to us, but we certainly understand that we're all going to have to make some adjustments to do well early in this new Big Ten.
Let's talk about some of those people that you have to beat, starting with Michigan. This will be just the second time that USC has played on campus at the Big House, the first time in nearly 70 years, and that's your first conference road game. Tell me what it means to open up with a game of that magnitude, an opponent who's the defending national champ. Like, how does that enter into the equation as you think about the season?
No, it's tremendous. I mean, I think it's a big compliment because I think it's pretty clear the Big Ten wanted this to be the first game. And I think it's fitting that it's in a, it's in a venue that has been a host of that has obviously been a Big Ten venue. Like, I think it all makes sense. Right, we're the newcomer to the league. I understand that, and so getting these two iconic programs and brands together right in the beginning, I think, is really, really cool. Now, obviously, tremendous football team. They've got a lot of changes. Obviously, coaching staff, a lot of personnel changes. That's just part of the world in college football. But listen, they've recruited well for many years. Coach Moore's not taking on like a program that's like down in the dumps by any stretch, right? So we know it's going to be a really good football team, and obviously there's going to be a lot of attention and excitement around that game.
Howard was asking you kind of generally about quarterback play. I want to dig down a little bit and just tell us about Miller Moss. I know you got a transfer too who's going to be in the mix, but I had a chance to meet Miller when I was out there for your practice. Really impressive kid. Physically certainly looks the part, and we saw the job that he did in your bowl game. Taking over for Caleb Williams for a #1 pick for a guy who won the Heisman, that's not an easy thing to do, but how has he kind of adjusted and fit into that role?
I think he's handled it well. I mean, in a lot of ways, the Holiday Bowl became a test drive. I think for him, for all of us, a chance to get out there to play, to prepare like a starter, and obviously handled it very, very well. And that's the key for him. Like he's, whether it's Miller, Jaden, whoever it becomes, like you're not essentially replacing anybody. You're just the next guy. You know what I mean? And I think it's important to have that mentality. It's the same conversations I had with, Kyler when Baker left and so on and so forth. Like, it's important to be your own person. And Miller's handled it extremely well. He's a really, really smart player. And I think most of all, he's just heavily respected in that locker room. He's one of the guys that hung around, a guy that could have left early or could have went and played somewhere else when he wasn't the starter. But he loves USC. He loves being at that place, and it's cool to see him in this position.
Coach, you're a play caller, which not a lot of head coaches are, especially at a place like USC, a giant in college football. Have you ever thought that there may come a day when you give that up just because of all the other things that you have to do?
I have. The last few years have made me think about it a little bit more than the first several. I have. I don't want to do anything other than like what's best for the program, right? Like that is the most important thing to me, is like whatever I feel is going to best help us win, that's what I'm going to do. I've certainly made some adjustments in the last few years to allow me to do the things that I need to do. An example would be, I gave over the quarterback coaching duties this year to Luke Heward, who was on our staff and is a fabulous coach, to allow me to break off and be more present in other areas, which has went great. But I still feel that, we've had a decent track record in terms of, offense and being able to call it, especially with the staff that we have offensively, feel good about being present in other areas, but still being able to do a good job on game day to put our guys in such good situations.
Mike Leach is one of your mentors, or
Yes.
was one of your mentors. Does that factor into the decision? Because he never stopped calling plays. But he never had a job like Southern Cal.
He didn't. No, he didn't. I mean, I think, when I first got the Oklahoma job, Steve Spurrier called me, and one of the first things he told me was, "Don't ever give up calling plays." And now obviously a lot has changed.
It's a different day.
It has. And if I ever get to the point where I feel like I'm not serving the program in the other areas, I would give it up in a heartbeat. But if I do feel like that I can do it and help our team win and still be where I need to be on the other parts of the program, that's what I'm going to try and do.
As your younger players were prepping for the bowl game, do you think you were further along because of that preparation, that 6 weeks that they got to play because guys elected not to play?
100%.
And how far has that gotten you?
100%. Literally, it's almost like we got 2 spring practices. I mean, in a way, and not just the work on the field. I think just like the vibe and the feel of this team started then. Like there was just something really special about the way that group came together for that game. Because I remind people, Louisville had a heck of a season. They had, I think 2 offensive players opt out. They didn't have any defensive players opt out. I mean, like that was, we played them pretty close to full strength. And for us to go do what we did against a really good football team like that, given what had happened for us, was I thought super impressive by our young players and the way they handled that moment. And it's like, we just kind of latched on to something there, and it just feels like everything since then has just been an extension of that.
Is it a way to build that?
It takes you want to build on it, but you have to have the right people with the right mindset. And I think our guys handled that tumultuous time well, and the benefit you get out of it is the confidence and the togetherness coming out of it, and really creating momentum going into this year.
Lincoln Riley, thrilled to have USC in the Big Ten. Thrilled to have you in the Big Ten. Really appreciate your time, and we look forward to covering the Trojans in the years to come.
So I'm here. Thank you, guys.